is Barbara Fighter, and on behalf of the Irish Wildlife Trust Dublin branch, I'd like to welcome you all tonight. Thank you very much for turning up for this special Green Drinks event. And before we start with the event, may I just say one or two things about our Green Drinks, the regular events, not the special ones. We meet here in this particular room the first Tuesday of every month. So if you want to turn up for it, you're more than welcome to join us, because we invite experts to talk about, or to give a talk about their field of expertise and special subject areas. And we then discuss these areas. They are always, of course, about environmental issues, hence the name Green Drinks. So it's all about environmental issues. To give you some small idea, in the past we have been talking about topics like blanket bugs and butterflies, conservation of biodiversity to caterpillars, from fracking to frogs, everything under the sun. And if you're interested in our green drinks, please turn up next time. That would be July. Our topic will be on pollinators and on wildflower gardens in urban areas. And the one in August will be about coastal erosion and so on. All our events are free of charge and no booking is involved. And you're all very welcome to join us. But more importantly, today now we have a special green drinks because we are celebrating Padraig Fogarty's new book. Now, we claim Padraig for ourselves because Padraig is one of us. He is our campaigns officer, and he's also the editor-in-chief of our magazine, The Irish Wildlife Magazine.
Before I start, I also just want to thank my wife Annika for all the work that she put into my book as well, for reading it, and not being an ecological expert, it was invaluable for her to tell me that, look guys, nobody's going to understand this, or this is a load of nonsense. So I mean that really helped to transform the book for me and to write it that bit better, I hope. I also want to thank my sister Emer for jumping at the opportunity of designing the cover, and for promising that she wouldn't speak to me again if she didn't get to do the job. So I'm quite happy that worked out and really pleased that it looks so well. The story of my book, I hope, is a collection of stories, because when I started looking into it, really, there are so many stories about people and nature in this country. Earlier this year I went to Arklow in County Wicklow, and I went for a walk on the beach, and I found these littered all over the beach. They are the shells of oysters. And when I was researching, I read the story of Arklow and how it was one of the most important fishing ports, not only in Wicklow, but in Ireland and the whole country. And during the 17th century, Arklow was exporting huge amounts of herring and cod and ling and other types of fish to France and further afield. But what really made Arklow famous were oysters. There was a bank of oysters that stretched all the way up the County Wicklow coast, and millions of these tiny little creatures would have solidified the surface. It was more or less like a reef of these millions of oysters. And when tastes changed, originally of course oysters were the food of the poor, but then tastes changed in places like London and New York, and oysters became valuable and desired, and the oysters were dredged. And today you go to the beach, these shells, they're smoothed from 100 years of waves lapping over them, because the oysters are gone. And it's instructive just to see what they said. They said as early as 1806 there was a fear that the beds would become exhausted, that's the beds of oysters, and restrictions on harvesting were recommended but not adopted. So basically people saw the damage was being done, but very little was done about it. They particularly complained of the great injury caused by the Jersey fishermen, who dredged at all times of night and day, Sundays and weekends. And by 1903, it was obvious that the Arklow oyster fisheries were at an end. So basically, the story of the Arklow oysters is a story of people who recognised that they were damaging their environment, but did very little about it. Now, when I was researching, actually after I had written the book, I came across a wonderful website called Dukas, and it's a project run by the Heritage Service where they're digitising folklore stories. And I came across this wonderful story that I thought I could read out, and it says, at one time in Ballastadair Bay, that's in County Sligo, was noted for the large supply of herring which were caught in it every year. The fishermen were not content with that, so they began to fight as to who would have the most fish. They fought with the result that one man was killed. When the priest heard about it, he came and he cursed the bay. Herring was never to be found in Ballastadair Bay. It wasn't divine intervention that sent the herring away. It was overfishing, and so much overfishing happened that most of the herring around Ireland collapsed completely in the 1970s. And there have been some efforts, in fairness, to restore it, but that kind of abundance is not seen anymore. I found that the story of fishing in Ireland is just so interesting because it's an example of how people and nature work so closely together, and how nature has a direct impact on people's livelihoods and their well-being. So many people were involved in fishing. This is a photograph I got from the National Archive, and or the National Library, sorry, and we think it's in Galway, although it's not labelled as such. It looks to me like the Clanta area in Galway. But look at that enormous fish in the woman's hand. That's a halibut. Halibut is a very big fish, and it was caught quite a lot around Ireland, but there are no halibut in Irish waters anymore. So by the 1930s, that story I read out was from the 1930s. By the 1970s, people were beginning to realise that we were having an impact on our environment. I was in school, in primary school in the 1980s. I had a teacher who was particularly enthusiastic about nature. And we did, we did leaf rubbings, and she taught us about the life cycle of frogs and things like that. But I distinctly remember talking about the environment, even though I was only 8 years old. The attitude was, things are changing. We know now the damage we're doing to the environment. And when you're running the country, things will be different. Environment will be centre stage. In the 1970s, we got a Department of the Environment for the first time. So that recognised that there was a political admission as well that we needed to start protecting our environment. NGOs like the Irish Wildlife Trust were founded in the late 1970s. We were opening new national parks. We had David Bellamy, for anyone who remembers David Bellamy, over, and he was warning us that, guys, your bogs are disappearing. They're wonderful places, they're full of wildlife and heritage, and if you want to save them, you have to do something fast. And it's not like the 1980s where some kind of golden age. At the time, a lot of our rivers were polluted. I remember people talking about lakes turning green in County Cavan. There were fish kills, farmers dumping tank loads of slurry into rivers. This was quite a common occurrence. The population of salmon, which was another example of an animal, wild animal, that was so important to people's lives and our heritage, was in steep decline by the early 1980s. But nevertheless, there was this feeling that something was going to happen. And this is probably the oldest government report that I managed to find about nature, and when people started to recognise that nature is important. And it said that this wonderful heritage is steadily being whittled away by neglect and natural forces on the one hand, and on the other hand by human exploitation. pollution and other aspects of modern development. That was in 1969. So the realization was there. And when I was a kid in the 1980s, it was a time of hope that something would change. But things haven't changed. And what prompted me to write this book was a sense of frustration insofar that we were working on all these problems, and every time a politician seemed to open their mouth about environmental issues, it was trying to gloss over the problem, or as Ella alluded to, trying to sell our food as being green and environmentally friendly without actually acknowledging the problems that existed. And one thing that struck me researching the book was that in the 1980s and even into the 1990s, we had politicians who were able to speak about nature and who were able to talk about it like it was important. People who promoted the setting up of national parks, even people like Enda Kenny, who was Minister for Tourism of their day. Since I started getting involved in the Irish Wildlife Trust a lot, I can't remember the last time a politician talked in defence of nature. Usually it's a problem. It's, you know, if there's a wastewater treatment plant we can't build because of a snail, there's a road we can't build because of a forest. It's in the way, it's something that really we'd be better off without. And that's what prompted me most, I think, to write the book. One of the things that I found that I thought was quite sad, really, was the number of animals that have disappeared from this country. Of course, when people arrived, they started changing the environment immediately. I mean, who knew we had bears or wildcats or lynx in this country? We had giant grouse. We had all kinds of birds of prey. But I reckon about 115 different types of plants and animals have disappeared. And it doesn't matter where you look, whether it's in the sea, or plants, or birds in particular. This extinction crisis is happening. And now that we have more information about it, we know that about a third of nearly everything is on the verge of extinction. And I think this is a big problem, and it's very sad. If you find all that rather grim and depressing, that's because it is all rather grim and depressing. But I feel sometimes that as an environmentalist, for want of a better word, we have a duty to not just complain about things, not just point out about all the things that are wrong. We have to try better than that. We have to show that another way is possible. If you want to stop overfishing, it can be done. But we need the right people to make the right decisions. And I guess it's easy to blame politicians. We do it all the time. And certainly there's a total lack of leadership at the political class. But also it's a failing of us as a society. I don't know, do teachers talk about nature and the environment the way my teacher did when I was in third class? I don't know, I don't think journalists write about nature the way they should. We're not familiar with nature, the national issues, in the way that we might have a vague clue about what's happening in the health service or education and infrastructure. And that means that when politicians come knocking on our doors, nobody tells them, what are you doing about the extinction of the barn owl? Why is our river polluted? Why is our seas overfished? So I just wanted to leave you on a hopeful note. This picture here, for those of you who can see it, is of a bog in County Offaly. And during the 1980s, this place, Bora, it's called, was open pit mine for peat. It was a wasteland. I mean, there are many more around the country you can go and see today. But it was one of the first of the large bogs in Ireland to be totally worked out. And of course they said, well, what do we do with it now? So they planted it with conifers, of course, but the trees wouldn't grow. So then they said, well, now what do we do with it? So a group of the Board workers got together and decided, you know, this would really be a great place for nature. We don't have to do an awful lot. We just have to step back and not spray it with chemicals and drain it, and maybe we could, you know, block a few of those drains. They turned off the pumps, which had allowed them to extract the peat, so large lakes formed. And as you can see, it's full of life. And recently, the Loch Park won an award for its environmental performance. It's a fantastic place to visit. You can go and cycle through what were once, you know, barren wastelands. Probably one of the best places to see wildlife in Ireland. It's full of birds, it's full of life. And most importantly, or as importantly, the local people are seeing the benefits of this because it's employing local people. They have a cafe. It's something they're proud of. It's something somewhere they bring their children at the weekends. And I suppose we have to find hope, because otherwise we wouldn't have bothered coming here tonight. We could have just stayed at home and watched EastEnders. We wanted real misery. So the fact that you all turned up is hopeful, and we can't just be satisfied with the fact that a lot of nature is gone. What worries me the most is that we totally forget about the oysters. We just move on. We just decide, oh well, this is the price we have to pay for a fishing industry, or it's the price we have to pay for a farming industry, and we just have to live with polluted water and not that much nature in our countryside. So I think we have to we have to fight, and we have to speak up, and we have to try and make things different, because there's another generation coming behind us, and we don't want to leave it worse off for them. So thank you again very much for coming along. Thank you.
Hi, a few final words. Firstly, thank you, Padraig, for both a lovely book and a lovely talk. Secondly, do not give up. We were in bloom this year, we're in bloom every year. 3 years ago in bloom, the antagonism of the farming community was palpable. 2 years ago it was better, but last year it was still there. This year we started getting support from the farming community. We in the IWT are making a difference, and in order to make that difference more palpable, we need the support of people like you. We are here the first Tuesday of every month. In spite of what Padraig might say, it is not simply alcohol. We meet at 7 and we are wrapped up by 8. So that the pub rule that younger persons, like the crowd I'm looking at, have to be out by 9 is well kept. We have an outing, or at least one outing once a month. This month we have 3. We have 2 to Ireland's Eye, the only place I know in the Northern Hemisphere where you can get to see gannets on a local rail link. Everywhere else, you go to places like Skellig-Michael or St Kilda or somewhere like that. Here you go to Howth, and there they are, just in front of you. We have 2 outings to Howth, one next Saturday and one the Sunday week afterwards. We have a gardener from Stephen's Green showing us the wonderful flowers there. On the Saturday before that, that's next Saturday week. You are welcome to every talk, you are welcome to every walk. You can find out about the walks either here or on the dreaded social media, Facebook, or by email. And there on Niamh is holding up a sheet where if you leave your name, we will tell you about things. We will not pester you. If you ever want to stop, you don't tell us you want to stop. You tell the mail programme you want to stop, and you will hear nothing more from us. So thank you again to Padraig. Please buy his book. We need to sell it. If you ask him nicely, he will sign it. There you go.
And my beautiful assistant here is ready to take your orders for books.
So thank you again, and bye boots. Yeah,